Hello and welcome back to That Park Place. My name is Vash Sky and I'm here to tell you about a project 10 years in the making at the Disneyland Resort. Oh yes folks, this one is a doozy when you look at the greater history of what's involved in something like this. Let's go ahead and put this on screen right now. Blog Mickey, Disneyland files permit for new 8-story 3.2 million square feet parking structure for Eastern Gateway Disneyland Forward project, December 23rd, 2025. Disneyland Resort has filed a new permit today for a 8-story parking garage. The parking garage is part of a previously announced Eastern Gateway transportation hub near Harbor Boulevard. The new parking structure is essentially the first step in Disneyland Forward plans to substantially expand the existing theme parks at the resort over the coming decades. And here's the latest. There's no doubt about the fact that this is a big project, and it is all about expanding the resort. No question about that, but you saw the words they used here, Eastern Gateway. The reason why these Disney-oriented news outlets are using the terms Eastern Gateway is for a specific reason. That actually refers to a 10-year-old project that Disneyland actually announced back in the day. Their original plan to expand at least the parking for Disneyland Resort, but also the footprint of Disney California Adventure. And we actually get an insight of what that actually was if we go back here to a very old Disney tourist blog update. This was back in August 11th of 2016. Again, nearly 10 years ago. Disneyland Resort Eastern Gateway Expansion. This is by Tom Bricker right here. And this goes into the history of what Disney originally announced all those years ago and why it's so profound now that Disney is just getting started on a 10-year-old plan. Ahead of Star Wars Land and other expansions, remember Star Wars Land would open in the summer of 2019 at the Disneyland Resort. Disneyland Resort has filed documents with Anaheim for its Eastern Gateway project, which is the largest infrastructure project in Anaheim Resort District in 20 years, and will include a new parking structure with 6,800 spaces, a new transportation hub, a security checkpoint, and an elevated pedestrian bridge. And yes, indeed, that is correct. It would include all of those things, and we suspect, based on the concept artwork that Disney has recently released for the revised version of the Eastern Gateway, that it will involve many of those same things, but just located differently. Now, here's the thing about the Eastern Gateway project and why Disney had to shift course in order to build what was roughly its equivalent 10 years later. You see, the Eastern Gateway project, if we look here on the blueprints that were originally filed, and I believe they're right here, yes, this was the original plan for Eastern Gateway. And believe me, folks, this all has a point, I assure you. But we have to go to the history in order to get to what is hilarious in the now. If we look right here, this was the concept for Eastern Gateway. And the idea was, okay, Disney had bought the old Carousel Hotel building, and that was going to provide a pathway by which you could connect a distinct point of land with the Disneyland Resort. What distinct point of land is that? That is this parking lot, basically, on the other side of Harbor, and it kind of butts up right to the 5. And this parking lot here would have provided the foundation by which you build an entire parking structure on. Not only the actual structure itself, but infrastructure to support it. And back in the day, it was the transportation area, which was to replace the transportation area on the other side of Harbor, that being between Disneyland and Disney California Adventure, adjacent to that Esplanade area that we know, that distinct area between the two parks. It was to locate all of that stuff over here, along with security. And then the parking structure itself, as you can see right here. Now, this building in the middle there is going to be a little bit awkward. And I do believe that lease agreement right there actually expired. What is in that building right now? Well, it's actually part of the U.S. federal government for customs enforcement. Yeah, bizarre. This was back in 2016, by the way. So I guess immigration, well, it just keeps popping up as a top issue. But if we look back at the map right here, we can kind of see how this would all go together here. You would have had your transportation area, your security area, and your parking structure all on the side. You would have crossed what was the carousel, now just a parking lot, but soon to be redeveloped, I'm sure. And then you would cross over Harbor, and then you would actually descend, not in the transportation area, but in a revised area that would have seen a new kind of expansion of the Esplanade. And then because of that, you would have distinctly increased the land that DCA sits in to the north. You can see right here that transportation area as it exists today currently prevents Disney from expanding to the north, right? And that is for this Hollywood Land area. Now, would they expand Hollywood Land? No. The original plan was actually to install Marvel in this area. Now, unfortunately, the Eastern Gateway project fell through, but people still remember the terminology. Now, why did it fall through? Why did the 6,800 space parking structure, along with this transportation system and along with the security apparatus and with this huge land bridge and so forth, you would have thought, golly, the city would have made buku bucks on this private project that would have involved a lot of taxes and jobs and so forth. Why did they decline this? Why did they not move forward with it? Well, it was that security hub, interestingly enough. You see, the original plan called for security screening for everybody going to Disneyland Resort. We now know that is just a part of theme parks. You gotta understand, back in 2001, that wasn't at all part of theme parks. You just walked into these places like DCA or Six Flags or Walt Disney World or Universal. You just walked in and nobody screened anything. But obviously that changes in September of 2001. And ever since then, well, parks have had to wrestle with adding resort infrastructure like security to infrastructure that was really never mapped out or planned to have security as part of their building or existence. So Disneyland was trying to confront that issue. And honestly, it had been piecemeal up until this point. But the idea was, okay, if we can screen them on the other side of Harbor, then we can have all that infrastructure over there. And then by the time they get to the land bridge and get over to Harbor Boulevard, they will have been checked out. They go in the Esplanade and go into either Disneyland or Disney California Adventure. From there, no additional screening necessary. Well, that was a big problem because that would have bypassed all of these businesses that benefit from being next to the resort. Yes, Disneyland was saying, hey, look, even if you're foot traffic, you got to go all the way around and bypass all those businesses and then be screened here in order to make it here. And that didn't sit well with like IHOP, for example, McDonald's, and all these different hoteliers who operate all of these businesses on that side of Harbor. So what they do? They band together and they said to the city, hey, we don't like this. This is going to be bad for business. And you should probably look to decline this Eastern Gateway project. And unfortunately, that's what happened. Eastern Gateway didn't actually go forward because Disney, in their arrogance, didn't actually take into account the businesses along Harbor Boulevard when trying to set up their security. And they tried, they really did, but there were long-standing issues. Again, this was back at a time when Disneyland President Michael Glazier back in the day was having it out with Mayor Tom Tate. It was going back and forth, and there were taxes involved. Remember the fourth hotel that Disneyland Resort was supposed to get? It all kind of collapsed right there. But that's why it took 10 years to get to this point. And as part of Disneyland Forward, they folded some of those plans, heavily revised, from Eastern Gateway into that Disneyland Forward plan, and then the city recently signed off on all of it, and that included the Eastern Gateway project, along with a lot of mixed-use zoning, land deals, and so forth, with Disney's holdings all over the city. So that brings us to today. Okay, that was a lot of history. I do apologize, guys, but we had to go over it in order to get to this point. What am I referring to? I'm referring to Avatar. Avatar is the big thing that we're talking about right now. Again, that new structure there has to go up in order to allow Avatar to run, basically, because Avatar is going to take up a huge amount of land, we suspect, especially with that boat ride and so forth. It's going to take up a big chunk of real estate right there. And as it currently exists, when it comes to Hollywood Pictures Backlot, or Hollywoodland as it is called now, that area simply, it can't fit the ideas the Imagineers have when it comes to Avatar in Disney California Adventure. So how did they get that? Well, just like we said before, that Eastern Gateway project right there, the plan is to knock out that transportation center and then build it on the parking structure side, on the other side of Harbor. Now, they are changing how that security apparatus is going to work in order to incorporate the businesses. And Disney was pretty clear on Disneyland 4 that that's how that was going to work. But that transportation area, that bus drop-off. Remember, you have the Toy Story lot, for example, right? And there are buses that take you from the Toy Story lot up into the Esplanade and let you off. That area, and by the way, there's a lot of ride-sharing options that go through there, and lifts and so forth. Not so much in that transportation area, but just adjacent to it. It's a whole big mess, folks. All of that needs to be addressed before DCA can bump out its borders and include Avatar. So, what does that tell you? That means that for every single day that this parking structure doesn't get built, it's another day we're waiting for Avatar. And it's another day that Avatar, maybe something happens to it. Remember, Bob Iger was the guy back in, I think it was, 2023 now? In that first earnings call back from Bob Chapek, he was the guy that said, hey, we're bringing Avatar to Disneyland. And, well, he may have consulted with Josh Duhamel. I think we ran a story in which there was an interview with somebody who actually said that, Bob Iger ran through Josh Duhamel before actually going through with that proposal. But that's basically it. It was a project from Bob Iger himself, who was really enthusiastic for two reasons about it. One, it was the most viable franchise up until that point because Way of Water had just made $2 billion, but it was a reflection of the big acquisition, the big risk that Bob Iger took. Now, you remember there were some criticisms levied at the Walt Disney Company about buying 20th Century Fox for, $70 billion. So in order to mitigate those concerns when it came to that big acquisition, it was Bob Iger saying, hey, don't worry, we are making use of that acquisition, we are going to profit from it, and here's how we're going to bring Avatar to Disneyland. But again, that was, almost 3 years ago today, and things have changed, especially Avatar's prospects. Now, the story isn't entirely written on fire and ash, so we'll see how that goes. But if Bob Iger is out by 2026, which we all suspect he will be, and another CEO takes over, are they necessarily going to be enthusiastic about bringing Bob Iger's big dream to life? Or to say, hey, the acquisition back in 2019 of 20th Century Fox wasn't a bad call because this? Or are they going to be more incentivized to bring something else to fruition in order to reflect their vision of the company as it currently exists today? See, that's the thing right here. For every single day that this goes on, for every single day that this parking structure doesn't get built, there are more issues, there are more problems that can be developed. And some people are already saying that this project is already delayed because we don't have a closure date for Monsters, Inc. Mike and Sully to the Rescue. That is the attraction at the north end of this area of Hollywood Pictures backlot that we all suspect will be announced to close soon, but we haven't heard anything there, and that's got a lot of people concerned as well. So this is an update on this 8-story, 3.2 million, 6,000 space parking structure that we've all been waiting for. But as you can see, it wasn't just about the parking structure. It was everything surrounding it. It was everything that went into this. And yes, it has a complicated 10-year history, and I was happy to inform you about it. If you have any thoughts or comments on this video and on this topic and on this structure, please go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below. I'm really interested to hear you guys' thoughts on all of this because I think this is just a very fascinating story. Look, you have a lot of moving parts in the Disneyland Resort. It's like the world's biggest chessboard with way too many pieces. And when you move something here, you got to move something there, you got to move something there, and it becomes a multi-year process. But that necessarily means that something like the Avatar that they're talking about, we're years away from it. Again, that parking structure has to be built. It's going to take anywhere between, I would say, 2 to 3 years probably. I believe their last parking structure went up, I think, 18 months or something. So they can do it if they want to, if they have the courage to pursue it, of course. And then only after that new transportation center is actually open and operated, will we actually get a new Avatar land? And that's when they can start, by the way. So we've got a long ways to go right here. Are you frustrated about the pace by which Disney actually works to accomplish these goals? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that like button for us. That would definitely help us out. And if you have any high points to spare, well, we'll go ahead and accept those too. Graciously, of course. And remember, make sure you follow That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.